All of them. The answer is all of them. Let's get into why. By the way, can we also just appreciate the design of these monsters? I will say the magical archers were kind of a miss for me as far as their design. They're a little bit bland, but then they just shot it out of the park here with the paladin design. I'm a simp for paladins, just paladins in any sort of game. So this really, really was a banner that I wanted to go for no matter what. All right, guys. So as you know, paladins are now into the game. On Wednesday, I went ahead and summoned for all three of these units, as I know that they are going to be absolutely meta units, and they have already shaken up the meta and become a staple in it. I know everyone off the bat is going to ask which one is best, and honestly, they're all incredibly meta. If I have to choose and give them a little bit of a ranking, it's going to be Red Ophelia first, Fire Paladin. Next is going to be Louise, the Wind Paladin, and then extremely close behind is going to be Josephine, the Blue Paladin. Now, right now, I currently have Josephine on Soul Connection. I have built Ophelia because I know that she's going to be a staple in my meta. And then I am still working on my Louise. I haven't built her completely yet, just leveling her up a little bit. So from what I've seen so far, Ophelia is my favorite, and we're going to talk about her first. Ophelia is really kind of an aerial, not replacement, but fills the slot that Ariel has been filling for a long time now. She does a lot of similar things, not as quite as much healing, so don't rely on her, in my opinion, as your solo healer unless you're a Kina. As a Cleef main, though, I really like a lot of the things that she does, so let's hop into the skills real quick. So Ophelia is really great. Basic attack is whatever. Skill 1, though. She is a defense scaling monster. So while she's not doing a whole lot of damage based off of defense, you're not using her as a damage dealer. Rather, you're using her as a healer and an enabler. So she does a decent amount of healing, both on her skill 1 and on her skill 2. They both have healing based off of defense. Skill 1 is really, really nice, especially for Cleefs, chasing around the Kinas, chasing around the Orbias, and nowadays chasing around Soletas as well. It has a 70% chance to root enemies after they pull them in. So the pull is automatic, and then you have a 70% chance to root them in place. It also has block harmful effect removal for 20 seconds. This is a really powerful skill, and it counters a lot of very meta units, cleansers, aerials, Annabelles, especially those Junos of the world that are trying to cleanse off the entirety of all the debuffs. So block harmful effect removal is a really, really great skill. So if you haven't seen this one, a couple units have block harmful effect removal, and it's extremely powerful debuff. Essentially, you apply this debuff, and when there are other debuffs on that monster or on that summoner, this debuff must be cleansed first. So let's say Juno pops her cleanse. This debuff is going to go away first, and the rest of the debuffs will stay there, costing a lot of mana and honestly giving you a lot of chance to follow up on all of those debuffs like defense break, heal block, so on. So this skill 1 is an extremely important enabling skill. I like to use this along with a lot of AoE monsters. So my Genos, my Garu, my Kumar is really nice. I'm sure a lot of you guys have different monsters that apply debuffs in an AoE pattern, right? AoE meaning like a circle. So this is a really great monster for enabling those things. Her skill 2 does healing as well, but it also removes 2 harmful effects. That's kind of crazy. If we come over here and look at Ariel, we're only removing 1 harmful effect. Now, granted, he also does apply level 1 continuous recovery, so you can get maximum level 2 continuous recovery when you're removing something. So that is a little bit of extra benefit, but for that burst healing, Ophelia is doing a decent amount of healing. When that dot is applied, she's going to be recovering HP of herself and a target team member. Also, she's going to be applying attack up and defense quite regularly. So she's a really, really strong monster. Let's go take a look at some of her skills inside of the arena here. So let's pop down a couple monsters here. And as you can see, we'll run the basic attack first. Just basic attack. This skill 1, though, look how large that is. That takes up a massive amount of the field. So as you can see, we've applied root as well as that block harmful effect. That's the big one. The root is also extremely important, allows us to do some AoE damage following up. So for instance, if I were to throw in, my Genos is just going to go ham and do his thing. skills and whatnot. So the root is extremely important. It's extremely helpful. Also, as you can see, block harmful effect removal, which is right there. That's that little circular icon. When Juno or another cleanser goes to heal this off, it's going to have a really hard time cleansing all of that off. So Ophelia is an extremely great healer and enabler. For Cleefs, I would say she's probably going to need a little extra support, either on the healing side or maybe even like a Wusa or something like that, for that little bit of extra healing / shield and support. Ophelia is definitely one of those monsters that I will be first picking a lot in Brawl Arena. All right, let's switch over to Louise. Louise is really, really strong. I have not used her myself, but I've been going up against her a lot in both Brawl Arena and a couple of arenas. So let's hop into Louise's skills real quick. Louise is HP scaling. So she's going to do a lot of her stuff based off of HP, so we're going to build her with high HP. So her basic attack here, same as usual. Her first skill, remove one harmful effect and invincible for 6 seconds. Really strong, kind of like a little mini Lima without the immunity. So cleansing, as well as putting that invincible buff up. Invincible is really hard to deal with unless you have a really dedicated stripper. Skill 2 here is recovering 25% of your max HP. So it's a decent amount of healing, but on top of the invincibility and cleansing, it's going to help a lot. She also is going to provide a shield on top of that healing, on top of that invincibility. Lastly, she's going to provide a provoke. Provoke is a really important skill for a lot of our squishier summoners out there. Soletas, Orbeas specifically. Provoke is really powerful, allowing Orbea or Soleta to really put out that damage. Lastly, we have her passive. So per 5% of her evasion, she's going to take damage down, meaning that she's going to take less damage with higher evasion. So this is one of those couple of monsters that you could definitely focus on a little bit more evasion rather than some of your other stats. Now, I wouldn't necessarily 100% go into evasion, like having a full evasion rune set, but it is something to think about when you are building your Louise, is having a little bit extra evasion so she doesn't die as quickly. When an attack is evaded, though, she's going to apply Spell Shield for 10 seconds, or there's a 30% chance to apply Spell Shield for 10 seconds. If you don't know what Spell Shield does, it literally nullifies a skill. It just straight up says, nope, that skill didn't happen. So Spell Shield is extremely powerful. Also, she has this one last little mechanic that if you're in a raid like Foggy Prison or Naraka, she's going to give everybody attack up when they are recovered. Don't worry about that one. That's really not useful in Brawl. I really don't see her being used in raids anyway. So on the surface, it feels like Louise isn't doing a whole lot. I will tell you from firsthand experience, she's extremely annoying and very tanky on the battlefield, keeps all of her teammates up, keep them alive, keeps them protected. It was extremely hard going up against Louise in Brawl Arena. All right, so we're going on, we're attacking. So this first skill is going to give all of us invincibility, right? It's also going to cleanse. So I don't have any debuffs on here because it doesn't allow us to do debuffs in this training mode. But the invincibility, extremely strong. Five mana cost, right? But it is extremely strong. It lasts for 6 seconds. This next skill here, look how large that is. See that healing? That is a massive area of healing, as well as applying those shields, as well as provoking. So you are literally going to be provoking pretty much everything on the battlefield, healing all of your own monsters on the battlefield, and providing a shield. So for 4 mana cost, this is a really, really powerful skill. And then, of course, she also has her passive, which we talked about, which is allowing her to get reduced damage. Also, along with her passive, whenever someone strikes Louise and that skill misses or is evaded, then she's going to apply Spell Shield with a good chance. That Spell Shield is going to stack. I can't really show you clips of the Spell Shield here because the monsters don't fight back, but I'll show you some clips from Brawl Arena a little bit later. Last, we have Josephine. I have Josephine on Soul Link right now. Josephine has a lot going on in her kit. Now, I put her at the bottom of the list for these 3 Paladins, but these 3 Paladins are above so many other monsters in this game. They are certainly meta. So just because I feel like Josephine is the bottom of the list doesn't mean she's bad. She's extremely good versus a lot of compositions right now. So let's hop in and take a look at her skills. So basic attack, as usual, is a basic attack. She is also an HP scaling monster, but her difference is that she's kind of a little bit more of a brawler, whereas the other 2, the wind one and the fire one, are definitely more of support monsters. So right now, I don't really have Josephine built as a brawler. I'm just kind of testing her out as a full sort of HP tank build, see what we can get out of her. So this first skill right here is max HP as damage, right? 30% max HP as damage. So it's a solid amount of damage based off your HP. This is where you'll want a little bit of crit and a little bit of crit damage. So that way that damage from the max HP can be a lot higher. She also removes 2 beneficial effects with this Justice Strike. So removing 2 beneficial effects, AoE, it's pretty good. She then applies Provoke with a 90% rate for 14 seconds. Again, another Provoke monster really strong for your squishy summoners like Orbia and Kina and even our new Soletta. Lastly, she provides a shield equal to 50% of the damage dealt for 7 seconds. So more sustain, more shields. Okay, next skill, skill 2, called Heavenly Blessing. It is 4 mana cost. It's going to remove all harmful effects on herself. So it's not cleansing other people, just all harmful effects on herself. She also grants a shield to the allies within an area, right? So all of your other team members are getting shield. Also, she's going to apply the counterattack buff, much like Fang Yang, the Wind Panda. That counterattack, whenever she gets hit, she's going to counterattack with a 15% chance. When she counterattacks, though, she's going to use Justice Strike 2. So it's similar to the first Justice Strike with a little bit different. It's going to be doing lots of max HP damage. It's going to be stripping, but stripping specific things. It's going to remove invincibility, remove shield. It's also going to remove spell shield, which is really powerful buff. Lastly, it's going to provide a shield equal to 50% of the damage dealt for 7 seconds. You're going to be able to see a little bit of that in the clips that I show you later. Lastly is her passive. Her passive is a little bit of a wall of text, and there's quite a lot going on, and this is the one that seems to be confusing people the most. When a team member receives a CC effect, so stun, root, oblivion, silence, you name it, there's lots of CC effects out there, use Heavenly Blessing 1 time. So that is this skill right here. Okay. If the shield disappears after taking damage, recover HP based off of your HP. So basically, if the shield just automatically disappears, like nobody's attacking her and the shield just disappears after a certain amount of time, she's not going to get that healing. But if somebody is trying to defeat Josephine and then the shield goes away because you're taking off the shield with your damage, then you're going to recover some HP. This is the one that's really confusing a lot of people. When mana gain / loss or mana regen speed up or down are applied, remove all beneficial effects. So let's read the wall of text here. In addition, when mana gain or loss or mana regen speed up or down is applied to all enemy and allied monsters, that means anybody is applying these things. To you, you're applying it to them, they're applying it to you, doesn't matter. Anybody that's applying mana regen speed up or down, as well as mana gain or loss, it removes all beneficial effects to start. Okay, she's going to AoE remove beneficial effects, increase mana cost, which I'll show you the debuff here soon, and deals fixed damage based off the target's HP. So the big one is the increased mana cost. So I'm going to show you that right now. Oh yeah, I do get penalty. Look at that. I completely forgot about that. So when picking this in Brawl or picking this in Siege Battle, it's really important to know what this skill does and what monsters it specifically counters. So let's go ahead and look up some of the monsters that Josephine is going to counter and some of the monsters that you can pick Josephine into. So let's head over to the book here. And the things that we're looking for is mana speed, regen up, or just mana up. So here's increased mana. This is one that Josephine counters. As you can see, let's look at some popular monsters. Elenoa, seems like everybody's got an Elenoa. As you can see, Elenoa here decreases mana. She also increases mana on her ultimate. So most people don't use her ultimate, but nonetheless, this counters her. Tiana, another pretty popular stripper here. As you can see, she increases mana on her most important skill here, increase mana by 1. So that counter, Josephine counters Tiana. Another monster that we use a lot, Garu. Now, Garu is kind of a special one. As you can see, he does increase mana, but only when you're using him in the Soul Link position in the Awakened state. Same thing here. increase mana only when he's soul linked and in the awakened state. So if you just have him non-soul linked in your backline, just sort of like doing his thing, then he's not going to be affected by the Josephine passive, but it is something to be aware of. Another monster a lot of people like to use, Bastet. Pretty solid. Again, a lot of people use Bastet for PvE situations, but I do see it quite a bit in Challenge Arena as well as regular Ball Arena, is that when Bastet increases her normal big skill here, the attack up and the shield, also if the summoner's HP is full, she's going to increase the mana by 1. So that's another mana increase that's going to be countered by Josephine. Lastly, the big one, and the one that really hurts me a lot, is Juno. I love my Juno. This skill, her most important skill for most people, cleanses off all harmful effects and recovers HP. Also, look at her passive. For every harmful effect removed, increase mana by 1. And same thing for the skill 1 here. Whenever she's stripping a beneficial effect, it's also increasing mana. So Josephine is a massive counter to Juno. Probably the biggest counter to Juno that we have. So that's increased mana. On the decreased mana side, there are a couple of really strong monsters. We saw Eleno earlier. We've got Tiang Lang, who's a really popular high-level monster. A lot of people have him at the top. And then Chiwu I see a little bit, and Hathor I see a little bit as well. So counters that decreased mana. So that was mana gain / loss. There's also mana regen speed up or down. Mana regen speed up or down is actually a skill or a buff that is applied. So we'll go to beneficial effects. So not a ton of monsters doing this one, but some that are really important to the meta right now. We see a decent amount of Shan, Tiang Lang, Genos. We do see a little bit of Celia, not a whole ton in Brawl, and we have Vertihil, but that doesn't matter because we don't see Vertihil in Brawl. So the ones that you're really going to see in Brawl and Siege Battle a lot is Genos, Young Hong, Tiang Lang, and Shan. So that's mana regen speed up. So let's look at mana regen speed down as another debuff that Josephine is countering. So the last part of her passive here, the mana regen speed down, we saw that there's a decent amount of monsters that do mana regen speed up, but mana regen speed down doesn't appear to be a debuff. If I go to search skills, harmful effects, I've combed through this multiple times and I cannot find anything that says mana regen speed down. There's mana cost up, and as you can see, Josephine is the one that's going to apply that, but that's not the same as mana regen speed down. And I cannot seem to find that anywhere in this list. So for some reason, if you guys can tell me down in the comments, what am I missing here? Mana regen speed down, is that just not a debuff yet? Do we not have a monster that does that debuff yet? Or are we going to get a monster that does that debuff? Because I don't see mana regen speed down here. All right, so here we go. Josephine, great counter unit. Let's go ahead and use her skill 1. Boom, apply shield. Grants a shield to itself based off the damage dealt, so she's really just going to stay alive for a long time. She also applies provoke, so let's go ahead and get multiple monsters here. So make sure to understand that AoE pattern quite a bit. It doesn't hit behind her, so you're going to have to really understand that when you use that in Arena. Her next skill here is the Heavenly Blessing. Removes all harmful effects on itself and grants a shield to allies within the area. Afterward, applies counterattack to itself. So there's that counterattack buff as you saw, and I'll show you a couple clips of that being used in Arena. And of course, guys, her passive is the one that's really the one that you're really thinking about with her a lot. There's a lot of monsters you can't bring with her, but there's a lot of monsters that you can pick Josephine into. All right, real quick, let me go over how I am currently runing these monsters. So Ophelia is defense scaling. I'm going full guard. I also have some endure runes just because they had some okay substats for defense. So as you can see, I'm about 7,500 defense. HP is about 80,000. A little bit more accuracy would be nice, but I think over that 50% is probably fine. You're going to be pulling people in, rooting them, and applying that block harmful effect removal debuff. So a little bit of accuracy is important on her as well. So honestly, relatively simple to build. Pretty much build her like an Ariel with some accuracy. Next up is Josephine. Now, right now, I think Josephine is the one that we are most hotly kind of debating on how to build her. Some people are going to build her more like a brawler. Some people are going to build her just straight tank with HP and defense and evasion and resistance. Honestly, I've got her on the full HP build right now. HP, you know, energy, 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 lots of HP. I also have some destroy runes. She's going to be on the field for a long time, and she is kind of a little bit more of the damage dealer of the 3 paladins. So I think a destroy set on her is going to be really valuable in my opinion. I think after playing around and testing with her quite a bit, I would like to see her with a little less HP and a little bit more in those crit stats. So that way I can be doing a little bit more damage based off the HP that I have. So maybe not quite the Garu build, but something in between my Garu build and my Josephine. All right, so obviously my Louise here is not fully awakened. She's not even skilled up or anything like that. So I am working on my Louise next, but I am putting her on the same rune set as I had my Josephine on just a second ago. All HP, defense, resistance, and some evasion to go with her passive. So Louise is extremely annoying and an extremely good support monster. So build her super tanky, make her stay alive as long as possible. So we've got Red Ophelia and Wind Louise are both really support monsters, whereas Josephine is the one that I would suggest building more on a brawler build with lots of HP, a little bit of defense, as well as crit rate and crit damage in order for her to do some of that damage as well. All right, guys, I'm going to show you guys a couple clips here from Brawl Arena of me going up against some of these monsters, me first picking a lot of these paladins. Hopefully gives you a little bit better idea on how well they do in Brawl Arena. Honestly, I was really surprised by how well they were doing. They were not very well runed. I'm missing books on all of them. None of them were awakened 15. Most of them were awakened like 11 or 12. So they were performing extremely well, even at lower stat ranges. All right, guys, I hope this sort of breakdown helped you. If you're on the fence about summoning for these monsters, please go and use your summoning scrolls for these monsters. Get at least 1 copy of each one. They will be the meta, and they will stay the meta for quite a while until they get nerfed or tweaked it down a little bit, which right now we haven't seen that happen on the Korea server, so it's probably going to be some time. So go and enjoy those paladins. All right, guys, I hope this breakdown helped you out to understand a little bit more about the paladins and where to use them, how to use them, and what to counter them with. If you have any questions, please head down to the Discord link down in my description. If you like this kind of content and you like my live streams, make sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification so you know when I go live, testing out paladins, and just having a grand old time on stream. As always, guys, my name's Topher Smurf telling you to keep on gaming.